What if one day, the roaches you swat every night evolved into 3-meter-tall monsters? Imagine creatures with human-level intelligence, capable of using weapons, executing tactical maneuvers, and, worst of all, working as a team. What do you think would happen? In today's movie, humanity makes a fatal mistake. Preparing to colonize Mars, they bring along two things: a special algae to terraform the environment, and common cockroaches, creatures legendary for their near-immortal survival skills. At first, the plan goes perfectly, but 500 years later, those roaches have transformed into something beyond our control. They're taller, stronger, and smarter than us, and most terrifying of all, they started treating humans like insects. Today, we're following a group of death row inmates abandoned on Mars, fighting for survival against billions of mutated cockroaches. But the deeper they go, the more they uncover a horrifying truth: the most dangerous threat might not be the roaches, but the very people who sent them there. A 3-meter-tall, roach human suddenly has its head split wide open, and from within, a mysterious woman crawls out. It turns out this monster was nothing more than a puppet. She had been using neurotoxins to control these creatures to steal a roach egg. If she could just get this egg back to Earth, the Japanese doctor could engineer a powerful, docile army of roach humans, a living weapon capable of rivaling nuclear deterrence. But just then, the egg cracks open in a bizarre fashion, hatching a pair of twin roach humans. Even though they've just been born, they already possess massive, Schwarzenegger-esque muscles and terrifying stature. The pilot, however, doesn't flinch. She immediately injects herself with a mysterious serum, transforms, and lunges straight at the roach babies, intending to use neurotoxins to subdue them. But life isn't a fairy tale. These F2 mutated roaches are completely immune to her control. In fact, they just flash her a wicked smile. Moments later, the ship blasts off, attempting to transport these two cockroach princes back to Earth. Sensing danger, the pair immediately sends out an urgent distress signal. Their brethren on the ground receive it, sprout wings, and fly straight up to rescue their royalty. Before long, the ship is swarmed and torn to shreds by the flying roaches, eventually plummeting toward the ground. It's fair to say this F2 generation is terrifyingly powerful. Not only are they far more intelligent than their predecessors, but their combat skills are off the charts. They even know a thing or two about Ip Man's Wing Chun. The origin of this disaster dates back 500 years. To facilitate a plan for interstellar migration, scientists sent a special type of algae to terraform the environment, along with roaches, creatures known for their extreme resilience, hoping to turn Mars into a new home for humanity. But no one expected that in such a harsh environment, the roaches would mutate. They didn't just grow 3 meters tall and strong as steel, they multiplied into the billions. To complete the colonization plan, Japan sent a scouting mission to Mars led by Dr. Honda. The crew wasn't made up of astronauts, but rather social outcasts and death row inmates. For his own selfish agenda, the doctor kept the roach mutation a secret, promising them that if they finished the mission, not only would their criminal records be wiped clean, but they would also receive a fortune. The crew excitedly set off for Mars. But the moment they stepped onto the surface, two pilots were greeted by a roach human. Kichi, naive as ever, thought he had encountered Martians and excitedly stepped forward to greet it. But in the blink of an eye, the monster snapped his girlfriend Nana's neck. Kichi barely survived, screaming in agony and demanding to know why. But all he received was the monster's chilling, silent indifference. To these dominant roaches, humans are no more than tiny ants. They can be crushed whenever they please. Having delivered its message, the monster turned and walked away. Just then, his teammates rushed over and urged Kichi to retreat, revealing that another crew member, Moriki, had also been murdered by the roaches. Kichi suppressed his grief, brought his girlfriend's body back to the ship, and demanded to know from the captain exactly what those monstrosities were. The captain finally confessed. The entire mission was meant to exterminate these roach humans. Everyone was shocked, looking at their own frail bodies. How could they possibly stand a chance? Just then, Dr. Honda appeared via hologram, telling everyone to stay calm. He explained that before leaving, everyone had undergone genetic modification surgery, having the DNA of specialized insects spliced into their own bodies. They only needed to inject the activation serum to awaken the superpowers hidden within them, enough strength to go toe-to-toe with the roaches. With that, the captain transmitted the energy data for each person's unique ability directly into their brains. Since everyone's biology is different, The insect abilities they receive are unique to each individual. The captain still made sure to warn them. Only use this if there is no other way. Whatever you do, don't overexert yourselves, or you'll be dead before you know it. The warning barely leaves his lips when a roach human appears right outside the window. The others, seeing this for the first time, are understandably shaken, but a seasoned veteran, full of experience, volunteers to take the first shot in this cockroach extermination campaign. His composure as he prepares for battle is ice cold, reminiscent of Guan Yu sipping wine before slaying Hua Shang. Seeing this, the rest of the crew is struck by his aura, convinced that he's got this in the bag. Seeing the roach closing in, the veteran quickly pulls out a vial and plugs himself to trigger his transformation. Once the mutation is complete, he launches a preemptive strike against his opponent. After a few exchanges, he unleashes a scorching, high-heat finishing blow from his left hand, aiming it straight at the monster. Everyone expects the roach to be fried to a crisp, but to their horror, the attack is like a gentle massage to the beast. Seeing this, the crew on the ship starts breaking into a cold sweat. This mission is clearly going to be much tougher than they thought. Before they can even recover, the roach leaps onto the ship, repeatedly ramming its head against the glass, trying to break in to pay them a visit. Don't you dare cause a ruckus here. You little punk, I'm here now. Seeing this, the captain injects himself. His bullet ant DNA instantly awakens, his strength surging 100-fold. With one clean punch, he ends the unfortunate roach's life. But their joy is short-lived. The ship's radar picks up a terrifying sight. Tens of millions of roaches are swarming toward them. The team plans to fire up the engines and bolt, but the ship's system mysteriously malfunctions. The only solution now is to locate ship number 1, which landed on Mars 10 years ago. If they can reach that vessel, they can make it back to Earth. The captain urges everyone to leave while he stays behind alone to hold off the cockroach army. However, the pilot, Ichiro, chooses to stay and fight alongside the captain against the monsters. At the same time, the team searching for ship number 1 piles into a specialized vehicle and takes off. The squad leader injects his gene serum and transforms into a Toadman. As soon as the vehicle's hatch opens, he blasts a torrent of fire from his mouth, creating a propulsion force so powerful it sends the vehicle screaming forward. Thousands upon thousands of roaches are sent flying by the sheer force of the shockwave. Like a wild stallion off its leash, the vehicle streaks into the distance. They expect to reach ship number 1 soon, but their joy doesn't last long. A new crisis looms. A black tsunami suddenly appears in front of them, rushing toward them at breakneck speed. As the gap closes, they realize in horror that this tsunami is made of countless roaches clinging to one another. Luckily, the swarm isn't at full scale yet, and with the squad leader's firepower burning bright, the team narrowly escapes the encirclement. But the next second, another tsunami of even more terrifying proportions crashes down on them. What the hell is that? That one's even bigger than the last one. The squad leader is hitting his limit. Having spewed fire for so long, his energy is burning out like an oil-less lamp. The crew decides to send out 2 specialists known for their defensive prowess. They immediately inject their serum, instantly transforming into a state of unwavering, shield-wielding tanks. Bolstered by their support, the squad leader gathers his remaining strength to unleash one final, massive blast of fire. Finally, the vehicle breaks through the swarming ring of roaches. But the impact is so violent the vehicle loses balance, flipping 1,800 degrees across the Martian landscape. The 3 people on the roof are mercilessly thrown off, and the severe vibration renders those inside completely unconscious. The automated navigation system kicks in, guiding the unconscious survivors toward ship number 1. Meanwhile, the 3 crew members left behind are fighting for their lives against an impenetrable swarm of roaches. Back inside the Mars ship number 2, hordes of roaches are rampaging through the cargo bays. The captain immediately orders Ichiro to seal all bulkhead doors. The roach humans are trapped inside, and the captain vents all the oxygen from the ship. The monsters start wobbling like they've had too much cheap liquor, and the captain and Ichiro soon pass out from the lack of air. Elsewhere, although the team in the specialized vehicle has reached the vicinity of Mars ship number 1, the roaches here have evolved beyond imagination. They have taught themselves how to wield human weaponry. 2 crew members, still distracted, are taken out before they can even trigger their transformations. With his teammates dead or injured, Kichi, the group's strongest warrior, jabs an activation serum into his neck. He transforms into a giant Japanese giant hornet, ready to wage war on these hateful roaches. Of all the world's most dangerous wild animals, it's not the bear or the shark that kills the most people, it's the bee. Specifically the Japanese giant hornet. They attack anything that comes near without warning. Unlike honeybees that can only sting once, these nightmares can unleash their neurotoxic stings an infinite number of times, stabbing until their enemy is defeated. Seeing Kichi looking so badass, Muto isn't about to be outdone. He transforms and charges into the fray. His insect gene is that of a desert locust, using his explosive jumping power and steel-like legs to deliver bone-crushing blows. Meanwhile, the first officer transforms into a praying mantis, her razor-sharp scythes becoming the ultimate weapon, slicing through roach humans as easily as cutting through bread. Just then, back on ship number 2, a strange roach human appears. It doesn't just know how to use a communicator, it understands the ancient proverb, infiltrates the ship to resupply oxygen, inadvertently waking the unconscious captain. Suddenly, the monster's head splits open, and a mysterious woman crawls out. It's Moriki, the crew member everyone thought was dead. It turns out Moriki's insect gene is the parasitic wasp. Her venomous sting can unleash a neurotoxin that paralyzes the roach's central nervous system, turning them into her personal puppets. She had used this ability to seize control of a roach, ordering it to slaughter its own kin to secure her escape. Moriki casually reveals the horrifying truth. She is Dr. Honda's inside woman. Her true mission on Mars was to secretly escort a roach egg back to Earth. With this egg, the doctor could refine his research to create a docile, super-powered army of roach humans, a living weapon to rival nuclear bombs and hold the entire world hostage. And that guy Ichiro? He's her accomplice. He's the one who sabotaged the ship's systems. Ichiro's insect gene is the tardigrade, water bear. His ultimate ability is fake death. When faced with danger, he enters an extreme state of dormancy. In this state, he can be grilled at 500 degrees Celsius, frozen at minus 270 degrees Celsius, soaked in alcohol for 168 hours, or even thrown into a vacuum, and he still won't die. Once the environment stabilizes, he just needs a drink of water to bounce right back to life. Moriki and Ichiro quickly power up ship number 2, planning to bolt back to Earth and leave Kichi's team to die. But just as the clock strikes 0 hour, the roach egg on the ship suddenly cracks open, hatching a pair of twin roach humans, already massive and muscular, looking like they were chiseled by Schwarzenegger himself. Despite the chaos, Moriki remains calm. She immediately injects herself with the activation serum. She lunges straight for the target, intending to use her neurotoxins to subdue them, but her calculations are completely wrong. The two newborn roaches don't listen to a word. Instead, they flash that same wicked smile and punch a hole through her chest in the blink of an eye. Clearly, this lineage has evolved immunity to all toxins. As the ship takes off, they immediately signal their kin for backup. These two roaches are shockingly intelligent. They even know how to properly buckle their seatbelts like humans. Moments later, the ship is torn apart and falls in a freefall to the ground. Yet the Cockroach twins emerge unscathed, without a single scratch. They immediately rally a massive army of roach humans and launch an all-out assault on Kichi's team. All three survivors are forced to fight with their lives on the line. The standard F1 roaches are no match for Kichi in his transformed state. But they are soon targeted by the far more powerful F2 generation. What the hell is this? This one is way faster than the others. No, its movements are actually too human. Have they evolved again? Facing imminent death, Muto is forced to inject a second dose of the activation serum to boost his strength. While his speed and jumping power improve significantly, he still can't overcome the incredibly aggressive F2 roach. He is almost grabbed by the leg and beaten to death on the spot. Seeing this, Kichi grits his teeth and injects his second dose. Thanks to a staggering burst of strength, he manages to save Muto from the clutches of the monsters just in time. With Kichi providing cover, Muto's agility and combat prowess are maximized. Taking advantage of the moment he leaps into the air, he jabs himself with a third injection. Instantly, 4 pairs of wings sprout from his back, helping him dominate the skies. The F2 roach sees this and whistles, calling his minions to swarm and take Muto down. After a brutal close-quarters brawl, Muto wipes out the entire squadron of flying roaches. But the price is his stamina. His body trembles, and he can barely stand. He is nearly blindsided by the roaches on the ground. Meanwhile, despite his 2 enhancements, Kichi is completely outclassed by the strength of the F2 roach. Watching the enemy preening in front of him, Muto, though at his absolute limit, decides to go all in. Ignoring Kichi's protests, he repeatedly jabs the 4th needle. Then the 5th. It's still not enough. Gritting his teeth, he plunges the 6th needle into his body. As a result, Muto officially evolves into the Emperor of the locust species. This transformation pushes past every physiological limit of humanity, meaning he will never be able to return to being human again. But in this state, his mind has only one target: kill. He strikes like a whirlwind, catching the F2 roach off guard. In a flash, Muto twists the head clean off one of the F2 monsters. The remaining roach turns around, seeing its sibling finished, but Muto collapses to the ground, overwhelmed by the drug's massive side effects. The surviving roach, enraged, charges to avenge its kin, but Kichi blocks its path. However, his attacks are now like mosquito bites, and the roach brushes him aside with ease. Both are exhausted, helplessly watching the monsters steal like fist hurtling toward their faces. But in that split second of life or death, a glowing object streaks toward them at blinding speed. Everyone's eyes are drawn to the strange sight. As the object draws near, Kichi is stunned. It's his girlfriend, Nana, who he thought was dead, now resurrected, even though her neck had been snapped by the roaches. The butterfly genes in her blood allowed her to spin a cocoon and be reborn from the brink of death. She glides over the cockroach army, her wings fluttering intensely, scattering glittering dust over the monsters below. The roach humans stare up, baffled, not understanding what is happening. Kichi remains frozen in confusion, while only Muto vaguely begins to guess Nana's true intention. Nana intends to use that cloud of dust to coat the entire battlefield, creating a catastrophic dust explosion, the only way to wipe out this massive cockroach army. But this means Nana will have to sacrifice her own life. Realizing the truth, Kichi immediately unfurls his wings and streaks toward Nana in the sky, desperate to stop her suicide mission. But in the very moment his hand is about to graze hers, a roach on the ground suddenly opens fire. The flame from the muzzle ignites the dust cloud instantly. In that split second of life or death, Muto throws himself into the fray to save Kichi. But Nana is completely consumed by the sea of fire. Exhausted, Muto loses the last of his strength and plummets from the sky. When the smoke clears, Kichi reverts to human form and wakes up. But Muto, having overdosed on the serum, has fully mutated into a human insect hybrid, mortally wounded by the explosion and the drug's effects. He breathes his last breath on the cold Martian ground. Surprisingly, even after that horrific blast, a few roaches remain, stubbornly clinging to life. Among them is the F2 mutant. Even so, it is severely wounded by the explosion. Now, Kichi doesn't even need to transform to easily knock it to the ground. Seeing the roach gasping for air, defenseless and broken, Kichi ultimately chooses to spare its life. Afterward, Kichi enters Mars ship number 2 and is shocked to find Ichiro still alive and kicking. It turns out the guy used his fake death trick to fool the roaches. When the tremors from the explosion caused a cup of water to spill on him, he was revived. By now, Ichiro has had a change of heart. Deciding he won't throw his life away for the doctor anymore, Kichi decides to let it go. After all, Dr. Honda is the true mastermind. The two enter the escape pod, preparing to head back to Earth. The surviving roaches attempt to pursue them, but the F2 mutant raises a hand, signaling them to stop. At the same time, nations around the world receive Kichi's report detailing the horrifying conspiracy on Mars. To shirk responsibility, the Japanese authorities attempt to turn Dr. Honda into a scapegoat. But the old fox had long prepared for this and vanished without a trace.